Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Innerspace journeys. We're going to take our time today. It's funny. I was um, just being silly with myself because I think I'm perpetually 12 years old. I'm just like, in my mind, I'm just a 12-year-old boy. That's kind of my level of humor and silliness. And I was thinking, stillness and silence. And I just do this for an hour and a half? Just be like a mime. I thought it was hilarious. An hour and a half of me just pretending like I'm frozen. Hi, everybody. I might be a little loopy today because I haven't eaten yet. I had my coffee and I had a little tiny snack, but I haven't had a proper breakfast. So hopefully I can just remain grounded and we don't end up sailing off into outer space somewhere. Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy March. My goodness. Happy spring is, well, season change is 3 weeks away, which I can't believe. I would, Lisa, but it's too distracting because if I'm eating, I'm the person who wants to be committed to my food. I don't like to be distracted while I'm eating. To me, I have a very intimate relationship with whatever it is that I eat. I'd say eating and sleeping are two of my favorite parts of being human, for sure. Anyway, I'm really excited that you're here. As always, today will be recorded. I'm putting it on YouTube once we're wrapped up today. So if you want to remain anonymous, you can certainly do so and turn your camera off. Although I love to see your faces, and I have yet to hear of anybody having a horrible experience having their face seen on these videos on YouTube. But whatever makes you comfortable. If you would like to, while we're gathering ourselves or we're kind of coming into the space, if you want to light a candle, burn some sage, smudge, incense, bring in some crystal rock friends, anything that helps you make this a more sacred, more connected experience, you can certainly do that now. I think everybody has been here before. I'm not seeing any names that I don't recognize, but just in case, this is how it works is we begin the gathering today with some channeled information that wants to come in. I have my notes, which I will be referring to over here. So if you see me looking over here, that's what I'm doing is referring to my notes. Then we might have some time for discussion, question and answer. We might not. It all just kind of depends on where we go and where spirit wants to take us. And then we will have time, no matter what, for some inner space work. So energy work, guided meditation work, kind of a group experience where we dive in and play with the energy of whatever the focus is. The chat is a great way for you to support one another, to share your thoughts, your feedback, your insight, your ideas. There is nothing off topic, so please feel free to go crazy in the chat there if you are hearing something that you are activated and want to say, yes, yes, I think so too, or yes, that's been my experience, or I don't understand, what are you talking about? Whatever it is, put it in the chat. And then when we get into the period where we may have some time for discussion, it just kind of depends. Some weeks we do, some weeks it just feels like, no, let's just move right from the opening message into the energy work. So we'll just let spirit guide us. Um, and, feel free to support one another in the chat as well. And then when we get to, if we have time for question and answer and discussion today, then you can certainly put whatever question you have in the chat, or you can raise your hand. That's another option. Also, feel free to share reactions if you like what someone's saying, or, it's striking a chord with you. Let's let this be as interactive as we want to make it. So today, stillness and silence. Gosh, I mean, I was writing in my newsletter this morning that I thought it was pretty ironic that there was so much information that wanted to come through around the topic of stillness and silence. It's one of those things that it's a conceptual thing, right? I think we talk a lot about certain concepts in our spiritual journey, right? Surrender, being in alignment, vibrations. And I think stillness and silence is another one of those things that perhaps sometimes we talk about it so much that it starts to kind of lose meaning, or our experience with a concept such as stillness or a concept such as silence. All of us, there's what, 20 something of us here today, 18 of us. There's, if I say, hey, what does stillness mean to you? Probably get 18 different versions of a very similar idea. The more I experience in this lifetime, the more I am reminded of how little I actually know. And these days, how willing I am to let go of an idea, to release a concept or a layer of identity or a thought system or a belief system, because I think that it is our experience of always being in a state of expansion, always being in a state of transformation. Um, in the Seth material, Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts, Seth says you are always in a state of becoming. There is nothing in all of creation that is static. And even things that we would call, inanimate objects, dead things, whatever, even those are going through a process of decay or a process of, think of a rock in the middle of a river. Over time, the water is going to carve around that rock. The water is going to alter. So this idea that we are ever done and this idea that we are ever at a point where we can say, oh, I'm finished. Now I can just sort of kick back and go unconscious. I think that's sort of the antithesis of the whole point of this journey. So when I talk about stillness and silence, what is it that comes up for you? Elisa has shared for her, it means peace. Candy is saying it's a 0 point, right? The particle and the wave, right? We're in that state where we're kind of suspended. Like Candy's saying, before we have made a choice. My favorite example of that is Schrodinger's cat, the thought experiment, right? And in that stillness and that silence and that 0 point that Candy's referring to, the cat is alive and it's dead. All things are possible. Lisa's talking about receiving. Annette says it's mindful connection. I love all of these words and all of these thoughts about what stillness and or silence mean for you. Linda's saying it means presence where I can appreciate life. Oh my God, isn't that lovely? A space where we can simply be, or we can just be. I don't have to perform. I don't have to convince. I don't have to defend. I don't have to chase. I don't have to run. I don't have to hide. I don't have to avoid. I can simply be. I get to just be. When was the last time you gave yourself the gift of stillness and silence? And when I say that, I mean it. No phone, no laptop, no sound, no music, nothing but what simply is. And I think that it's something that we can certainly make a part of our practice. Richard Rudd, who's in charge of the Gene Keys, he's the guy that channeled the Gene Keys. He talks about the moments of the pause. And he says, if you watch nature, like I have the birds out here, I throw seed every few days out here. I keep the bird bath full. So I watch the birds a lot. And there's lots of animals around here. So I'm just always in observation. And he talks about the pauses that nature takes. He says, you will see a bird or another animal. And if you have a cat or a dog or fur babies at home, you will also see this, that at some point throughout the day, multiple times throughout the day, you will see them just simply stopping. They're just stopping. There's no activity other than simply just being, just observing, just allowing the current moment to reveal to you what is present. And there's something that I think is sort of impossible to unwind from this idea of stillness and silence. And Lisa already touched on it. And in my book, The Notes from the Higher Self, note number 60, I'm going to talk about it. Note number 60, observation invites stillness. When shit is going down and you find yourself in the thick of it, simply become aware and observe. When you're caught up in the drama and panic sets in, simply become aware and observe. When you're lost or uncertain and you feel like it's all falling apart, simply become aware and observe. Observe your circumstances like you're watching a movie. Observe your thoughts. What's the narrative currently running through your head? Observe your body. Where are you feeling tight and restricted? Observe your breath. Is it panicked and shallow, or is it deep and measured? Observe the energy in and around you. What's the vibe right now? Going into observer mode isn't about avoiding things. It's about pulling back for a minute and allowing yourself to see a wider perspective. And by changing the way you are observing something, you can change it again. Going into observation mode allows you just for a moment to stop thrashing and let the waters go still. Even if it's only for a split second, let the stillness in. The magic of the stillness is that it holds the clarity you seek. When we simply allow ourselves to be with what is present, free as much as we can, free from judgment or opinions or thoughts or reactions to the circumstances, when we simply allow ourselves to be, the truth is revealed. The truth is not hiding from us. Now, we do a really, really good job of trying to hide the truth often, trying to distort it or change it or manipulate it or make it something else. But the truth is always present. It simply is. It's like love. It's like gravity. It is like the field of energy that sustains all of life. It simply is. I was watching a Bashar video yesterday. For some reason, Bashar has just come into my awareness over the past couple of weeks, and like all of his content is popping up to show itself to me. And there was one that I was watching yesterday, and he said 99% of the physical experience, your physical reality, has zero meaning. There is no meaning inherent or implicit in anything. All of it is a neutral state awaiting our impression, our projection, our observation, our choice, our judgment. Bashar. You find him on, it's Daryl Anka. He's been channeling Bashar for, I don't know, like 20 or 30 years now. But there is no meaning inherent or implicit in anything. Things simply are. And that is the whole point of the human experience, is that we create it through what we project onto it. The lens that we look through is what creates our experience. And when I allow myself to find the stillness and the silence, and I allow myself to simply be present, it reveals itself to me. The quote that I used yesterday in my newsletter was this Claude Debussy quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes. It says, "Music is the silence between the notes." I think more often than not, it's what we don't say that is the most powerful. It's what we leave out that I think has the greatest impact. Often I talk a lot about learning through the absence of things. And, you know, as someone who was chronic anxiety for years, for the majority of my early adult life and on into my 40s, chronic anxiety all of the time. And when I allowed myself to really, look into it, feel into it, allow myself to be, what I realized is I was just trying to control so much. I was trying to resist or produce or control outcomes. I was trying to find a space that felt safe. And all of it came from this place of trying to control, right? There's also this trauma response of over explaining, right? Where someone says, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, nothing." That's a natural response. For those of us who maybe felt like we had to defend or explain or justify or validate ourselves, or give reasons why we were using the time in the way that we were, right? Maybe we grew up in a very controlling household. Maybe the environments that we grew up in were very controlling, or we were steeped in that idea. But oftentimes, a response from that is over explaining. "What are you doing?" "Oh, nothing." That's just a normal average response. Now, someone who is carrying a lot of unhealed stuff, someone who is carrying a sort of an imbalanced attachment to the external world is going, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. I was going to do this, but then I did that. And then I woke up and this thing happened. And then I was coming over here and I was going to do that, but then I couldn't because, right, over explaining, we're giving so much information. We're filling the room with noise. What we're looking for is the thing that we can say that will diffuse the attention or diffuse the focus from us. We really just want to kind of hide and disappear. At least that's what my experience was. I had a mentor years ago who said, if you're not sure about someone's intention, let them speak without saying a word. And I didn't understand what he meant. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, let your responses be present. You can nod. You can go, mm, but do not say a word. Just let them speak. I promise you, if someone has a hidden agenda, or if someone is trying to get something from you or control an outcome, they will reveal it if you give them enough room to do so. The less you say, the more they are going to want to fill the room with explanations and excuses and deflections and distractions. But if you just allow yourself to be present long enough without acting, beyond merely acknowledging what you're hearing or seeing, the truth of the situation will reveal itself to you. One of the biggest surprises in my personal experience over the past few months has been seeing that the less I do, the more successful I am. And let me clarify what I mean by that. When I come from a state of being, when I allow myself simply to be, and I say, okay, in this moment, what is it that is the most fulfilling thing I can focus on? Or what is it that most wants my attention right now? Or what is it that really wants to be fully expressed in this moment? When I allow myself to be shown rather than deciding, it's always an effortless, easy thing, and it just comes. This was another thing that I picked up from a Bashar video recently. He's saying the number one thing in manifestation that every single human gets wrong is, yes, you wait until you are inspired to act, but here's the missing piece. You act without expectation of what the action will bring you, period. So for me, what that meant is I had to find a place where I was creating just because I was excited to create. I had to find a place where I was fulfilled simply by the act of creating and putting it out there and saying, I would love it if this got a huge response, or I would love it if this really helped people understand, or I would love it if a lot of people got excited about this content, or whatever the thing is. And whatever happens, I trust. Whatever happens, I have full faith that the outcome was exactly what I needed. I think we've been conditioned to believe that the more we do, the more we act, the harder we work, the more successful we will become. And I certainly agree that commitment and dedication are important, but not if it's something that you really are committed or dedicated to. You can't fake it. You can show up and pretend to do the work. You can show up and check all the boxes of, yes, I'm doing my job. But if you don't love it, that dedication is empty. That commitment is really a performance. So when we allow ourselves to say, I'm doing it just because I'm excited to do it and I will be done, we'll see where it goes. But it's about allowing the truth of who we are to say, hey, what about that thing? What about that thing? Go do this. So for January and February, for most of those months, I decidedly did very, very little on purpose. And what was revealed to me was, number one, there's a part of me who really believes that effort equals success, which is another note in here. And I'm not going to bore you by reading two, but If effort really equals success, then how come people who work three jobs are struggling so hard? How come people can bust their butt in a job for decades, in a relationship for decades, without progressing or ever experiencing what they truly, truly want? So when I get still and when I remember what it feels like when I'm connected, that's the number one reason that I often seek stillness and silence, just so that I can remember what my own voice sounds like. We have so much content coming at us. Did you know that we modern humans consume more content in a week than our ancestors did in a lifetime? My granny was like well into adulthood before she ever saw a movie. We didn't have cable until I was like in seventh or eighth grade. And I'm not even that old. Like, I'm not from the 1800s. I wasn't born in the 17th century. So, not that long ago, just really about 30 years ago, we were in a much different reality. I agree, Annette. I think it does. Too much information suppresses wisdom because here's the thing: knowledge can only become wisdom once it is lived. And the amount of content that each individual is consuming daily, there's no way in hell. You would have to live to 450 years old to apply all of the information that you consume, even in just one day, to see if it holds water as wisdom. Because to me, wisdom is truth in action. Wisdom is the proof that this is true. And wisdom starts as knowledge. We're presented with a bit of information that says, this is how it is. And then we go, is it really? I don't know. Let me go apply it to my life and see. Does it hold water? If the answer is yes, then that is wisdom. So, and I find this hilarious. Oh, I'm taking a social media break. I'm not going to be on social media for 24 hours, as if that is the pinnacle of some sort of self-control. And I understand, right? We do need to monitor. This is a very new thing. 30 years ago, we weren't having conversations about the damage of blue LED light on our vision. We weren't having conversations about how there's so much energy running through our mental field that it's hard for us to even find our body. So stillness and silence invite observation. And here's another piece. You've heard me say that energy serves, right? Energy has one job, and that is to be of service. The field that we exist in, from my perspective, is a neutral field. Unconditional love is a neutral state. The neutral field of energy that we exist in is exactly that. It's neutral. It just is. And it is simply waiting for a choice, for a decision, for an opinion, for a belief, for an action, for us to tell us where to go and what to do and what to become. So when I am able to sustain a neutral state, guess what? I get to watch where the energy is going. It will show me. Right? If I just allow things to be as they are naturally, I get to see, right? Think of a river, right? Let's say I bought some property and I want to create a water source on my property and there's a river close by. The first thing I'm going to do is just go and watch the river. Where does it go? Where does it naturally want to lead? Where is perhaps a major, a wide berth in the river that I can start to funnel some off into my own? When we just watch the flow, and we watch the current, it shows us. I think being active and being effective and working hard and getting things done and being an achiever or an overachiever, I think that is our new favorite human addiction. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. Oh, don't we love to say, "Oh, girl, I just put in 70 hours this week. Can you believe I'm still standing? Look at how amazing I am, or look how put upon I am, or look at what a superhuman I am, or whatever the story is." And I'm not trying to deny the very real experience of human accomplishment, but we really, somewhere along the line, started to believe that the less we have left over for ourselves, the better off we are, or the more effective we are, the better version of a human we are, whatever the thing is. There's another piece here that I think is really important to acknowledge. And that is that the voice of spirit is almost always really quiet. The ego is the only one that has an agenda. And my experience has shown me time and time again that the loudest voice in the room is seldom the most confident, the most healed, the most well put together. It is always, in my experience, the squeakiest wheel that needs the most grease. And hey, we've all been squeaky, right? The other side of that is closed mouths don't get fed. If I'm not willing to speak up and advocate for myself and say, hey, wait a minute, but that's another thing. If I allow you to simply speak to me and allow myself to observe what you're saying and really hear it without jumping to action, you will tell me exactly who and what you are. People show us all the time how they feel about themselves by how they behave, by how they treat others. And when I refuse to get into a wrestling match and I simply watch and observe, and I do so from a place of stillness and silence, right? Really listening, not just waiting to speak. It shows me everything I need. It brings us from here to here. And isn't it funny how, one of the primary benefits and functions of meditation is to silence the mind, right? It's to remember that, oh, I don't really need the mind to always be in a state of chatter and activation to be a happy, healthy, well-adjusted human. In fact, the less that's going on up here, actually, more often the better I am. But when I get out of here and I find my space in here, and isn't it funny how, okay, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to stop thought, I'm going to get out of my head. And then I do. And then what's the first thing that we often do after meditation? Back into the intellect, back into a mental exercise, back into this energy. So stillness and silence allows us to see where we are. It can also help us begin to learn how to eavesdrop on the unconscious. And I've shared this story before, or the subconscious. This was years ago, probably almost 10 years ago now. And there was this guy, I just unplugged my computer. There was this guy that I was dating. It was super casual, and I really, really liked him. And we had been getting to know each other. And one day we had a phone conversation. It was a really great conversation. I was really into this guy. I was like, my God, that was such a good conversation. I got off the phone with him. I was feeling really jazzed. I was feeling really, really excited. And then this little slippery thought, this dark little shadowy thing like skittered through my mind. And it said, well, if he's being nice to you, it means he doesn't like you, because the only guys that are nice to you are the ones that don't really like you. If a guy likes you, he's going to be dismissed. And I said, wait, what? Like, I almost did not even register that thought. It was so quiet and so small and so nefarious and insidious, but it was like grabbing a little greasy rodent by the tail. And I'm not saying all rats are rodents are gross, but if you've lived in New York City, you know that, yeah, the subway rats are a little nasty. It was like a little dirty subway rat. And I grabbed it by the tail and I was like, wait a minute, what was that thought? And for the next 45 minutes, I just sat and in observation and realized that there was a very real program active in my personal belief system that said when someone likes you, they're not going to be nice to you. I don't know where that came from. And frankly, I don't care. The point is that in that moment, had I not been fully present, Had I not been completely in myself, I would never have witnessed that activation of that thought. What's that saying? It says, heal so you can hear what's being said without the filter of your wound. When I am in stillness and observation, I hear the words and I do not apply meaning. I allow the words that were pointed in my direction to be received as they were intended without me putting the filter of my own stuff on top of that. And that's a tricky one because very few of us are aware of the fact that thought is ultimately a choice. We believe that it's just this automatic thing and that we are at the mercy of it and we're just watching a game of tennis or ping pong and that we have no agency. Oh my God, bullshit. Thought is a choice, as is belief. Don't believe everything you think. That's the best advice I've ever been given. And in fact, question it. Lovingly push back on it. Gently investigate and interrogate it. And you know what I love to say, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So the reason that learning how to access stillness and learning how to go into the observer mode and learning how to be comfortable in silence. Then when I'm in a situation where it's crucial that I really hear and receive the truth, I already know how to be in that space of neutrality. Because the human mind can only do two things. It can be present with what's happening now. Oh, there goes those weird. I thought I turned that off. It can be present with what is happening now, and it can be present with what has already happened. That's it. So we could say that there is the thought from the higher perspective, from the higher mind, and then there is the human version of the thought. And I'll give you a guess as to which one is the one that I would be questioning. It's no surprise to me that in one of the moments in human history where our clarity is more crucial than ever before, that we are being bombarded with influences that directly target the mind. The body does not lie, and the body cannot be fooled. The mind, though, my God, you are like the country bumpkin that just got off the fucking bus. You just walked into Times Square with cash stuffed in your pockets, visible, and you wonder why all of the shady motherfuckers in Times Square are swarming you, because the powers that were understand that the easiest way to trick a human is to mentally manipulate them, to program them into believing something that isn't true. And guess what? If I get 50% of the population on this side and the other 50% on this side, and then I get them to go at each other, I get to just sit back and watch. So don't think for a second that the clowns that think they're in charge of everything don't also understand the power of observation. And if they get all of us infighting, as they have for the past several thousand years, convinced of our rightness, then they just get to sit back and watch. Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. You don't get to a position of power in this reality by accident. And when I just watch, I get to see the emperor has no clothes. When I refuse to take the bait and I just watch, when I see through the words that are being called compassionate and caring, but I see that it's actually an attempt to manipulate my version of identity and how I believe myself to be, it becomes very, very clear to me because this doesn't lie. And now I know after 40 something years of being consciously in this body, the first 10 probably, or there was a decade there where I was out of my head. I know what it feels like when I'm connected. I know what truth feels like. And I also know what it feels like when I am in the face of total and complete illusion. So this, to find this, to access this, to connect with this, requires my silence and my stillness. And then I just get to watch. Words are magic. Words have power. It's called spelling for a reason. Words have vibrations and frequencies. And when we remember how to be in that place of stillness and silence, we can feel the vibration. And it's not a mental thing. You can just feel. I know you have all had this experience of like, I just feel it. I don't know what it is, right? There's something in the air, or I walk into a space and I'm like, ooh, I don't like the energy in here. Or, ooh, my God, it feels amazing in here. I don't know why, right? Our body is always telling us where we are and where we're headed. But it's a language that is very subtle. So, in my experience, truth is often accessed through stillness and silence. And the quietest voice in the room is often the one that has something that probably the most profound thing to say. And you can learn a lot by simply watching. Just smile and nod your head, or, oh, tell me more. And you want to know how to stay in neutrality when you're in conversation with somebody? Just mirror back exactly what you're, oh, I see that that has you excited. Oh, you seem to be angry about that. Oh, that seems to be really important to you. Wow, this topic, you're very passionate about that. Wow, I can see that you're really out of sorts or whatever the thing is. I'm not co-signing it. I'm not enabling it. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm not fighting. I'm not flighting. I'm not fleeing. I'm not fawning. I'm just staying. Yeah, oh, I see this has you really worked up. And then just watch as that person just spins in a circle. Because here's the thing, the truth is always simple. Always. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm bored, I'm lazy, I'm angry, I don't want to be here, I want to be there, whatever. It only becomes complicated when I try to distort it or hide it or change it or make it something else or try to manipulate it. Now, certainly my experience of the truth may ask me to do some things that feel complicated or challenging or difficult. So the actions required to come to truth might feel complicated. But the truth in and of itself is always very simple, and it's usually 10 words or less. I think it was Einstein that said, if you can't explain something clearly, then you don't understand it. Or you don't understand something simple. If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing and I don't understand that quote. You know, I think about simplicity. When I think of stillness and silence, I think of simplicity. You know, there's 26 letters in the English alphabet, and how many amazing, amazing poems and works of art and literature and stories and crappy stuff too have been written from the same 26 words or letters, excuse me. So to me, simplicity is also a hallmark or a marker of being in a place of stillness and silence. To me, simplicity is mastery. I talk about this a lot when I was a makeup artist and I was teaching other people how to be makeup artists. I could always tell the new ones. They wanted every color on the face every single time, right? Like I want the full fucking rainbow on everyone's face every time. And I get it. I was the same way. I was so excited. But you can always tell a seasoned artist because they will have like 5 products out and they will give you the most stunning makeup you've ever seen in your life. And a master makeup artist knows it's not about the makeup, it's about the face. Use the makeup to enhance what's already there. I often talk about Noguchi too, the designer, and he had that coffee table, that famous coffee table. And the whole point of this coffee table as a design exercise was to get it to the point where there was nothing extraneous. If you remove any single part of this coffee table, it is no longer a functional coffee table. That is mastery. And I guarantee you, he did not come across that design by being in a loud, noisy, chaotic environment. That perfect simplicity, which to me is a mark of divine purity, that is channeled. That coffee table is a divine design that he channeled, because there is nothing that you can take away from that coffee table and have it still be a functional coffee table. Yes, absolutely, Lisa. Simplicity embraces the laws of nature because nature does it the best. Yes, I love that, Linda. It's a very elegant, elegant design. It's pure. There's no noise. There's nothing extra. And if you've ever been in a gallery or an art museum, sometimes there are these gorgeous works of art that get an entire wall to themselves, or a sculpture in the middle of a gigantic room with nothing else in it except for that one sculpture, because the artist or the gallerist or the curator, whoever it is, wants everything about that room to be focused on one thing. To me, that is so pure. And in order for that to happen, there's got to be space. That's another marker of stillness and silence, spaciousness. Spaciousness, room in your day, room in your body, room in your field, room in your mind. And there's an interesting thing that happens when I simply sit and watch the energy. It lines itself up. It organizes itself. Energy is intelligent. And then when I refuse to direct it, and I simply say to it, you arrange yourself in the most spectacular version of your arrangement that you can be right now. I just want you to show me how amazing it can be. So spaciousness. Believe it or not, we don't have to work 40 to 70 hours a week to be successful. And that's not what humans were built for. And if we go back to that quote, music is the space between the notes. It's the silence between the notes. That's what creates a beautiful piece of music, right? The tension, the drama, the suspense, the expectation. Sometimes it's what we don't say. Sometimes it's what we leave out that makes the biggest impact. So we just allow ourselves to be, to observe, to feel, to see, to watch, to receive. When I was a kid, I used to do this thing, and I understand it now. But when I was a kid, like, we were talking about the pause, the Richard Rudd idea from the Gene Keys. I would, throughout the day, especially during the summer, right, when it wasn't at school and I had my days full, but during the summer, when I was in my own vibe and my own flow and my own rhythm, and I could just go where I naturally wanted to go, which would not have been school, trust me, had I had my choices, there would be moments where I would just stop. Again, it's that pause, and I would just lay down on the grass and stare at the clouds, or I would lay down on the floor and stare at the ceiling, and I would just, for like 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, just staring, just being. What I understand now is that was my brain taking a rest. Our bodies were not designed to be as stimulated as they are. Our mind, my God, No wonder there is an epidemic of anxiety in this world because we are pouring more information into our mind and our systems and our fields all of the time before we've even had a chance to process what's just going on in the moment for that day. We are not designed to be so mentally activated and emotionally activated. I think that's another human myth that we've been sold, is that if I'm not always in some sort of activated emotional state, that something's wrong. Yes, Candy, information. Information forms you, it shapes you, it directs you, especially when you don't question, especially when you just assume that the person who says that they have your best interests at heart do. So when we allow ourselves simply to be, stillness is a state of being. It's not some foreign concept that we don't have access to or an experience of. It is something we can do at any time, any moment. We simply have to choose it. And if it means that you have to set a reminder on your phone to go off every hour and a half or 2 hours to remind you to be still, then hey, that's what it takes. Sometimes we have to reprogram our program. But when we simply allow ourselves to be present, we see, we are shown, it is being revealed. When I let myself unplug from my mental system that is so determined of what things are or aren't, what's right or wrong, good or bad, wanted or wanted, unwanted, whatever it is, when I allow myself just to simply witness and to see, things change. There's that Wayne Dyer quote, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Because remember, if we live in a reality where everything is neutral and there is no inherent or implicit or explicit meaning in anything, then the only thing that's creating my experience is this, the mind. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot of people talk about, and I've been having the experience in my own life, is this thing of waiting, right? A lot of people saying, well, I'm waiting for this thing. When is it going to happen? And, you know, and we understand, right, the conflict or the, what's the word I'm looking for? The fallacy there, right? This idea of waiting for something, right? And we talk about this, right? When I get this, then I'll be happy. When that happens, then I'll be fulfilled. And we know that that's not true. And yet there's also this thing to waiting. Sometimes I say, you know, even Martha Stewart has to wait for the cake to bake. The queen of cakes just has to wait. If it's 45 minutes at 400 degrees, that's what it is. And not even Marth can circumvent that requirement. But when I allow myself to drop my resistance, waiting becomes preparation. When I stop telling a story about why I'm waiting and what that means and taking it personally and creating an emotional experience out of it, I don't have to do that. I can just say, well, it's the timing of it. And if it's not here yet, then I can just be in preparation for it, preparation of it. So we create a reality where we're in a prison. Now I'm waiting. And that's powerlessness. That's implicit that somebody else has the controls over when it happens or when it comes. But when I come back to a place of stillness and I come back to a place of silence, even in circumstances that the mind might say, God, I don't want this anymore. I'm so tired of this. When am I going to be done waiting? Well, turn it into preparation. Drop the resistance, drop the entitlement, drop the insistence that it happen the way that you need it to or want it to, and just allow. Yes, Candy, I love that. I used to talk about that a lot, right? When you go out to dinner, when you go out to eat, and you make your order, You just know they're going to the kitchen and it's going to happen. Okay, sure, every once in a while there's a mistake, but 99.9% of the time we get what we ordered. But what would happen if I went into the restaurant? Oh, hey, I'll have this to eat. Then the person, oh, wait, come back. I want this. Okay, go. Oh, wait. So we change our order 17 times before they even get to the kitchen. And then 5 minutes later, we're starving. Why am I so hungry? Where's my food? Well, girl, you changed your order 17 times. They didn't even have enough time to put in the first order before you changed your mind. Just be still. Just find that place of connection and then say, what do I really want right now? What is the most satisfying thing I can eat right now? Yeah, that's it, Lisa. It's co-creating. Co-creating means there's another person involved or another being involved, another intelligence involved. And trust me, as the former control freak Virgo that I am, allowing room for my co-creator to do what my co-creator can do was one of the biggest challenges. When I'm telling you that January was like, it took effort for me not to exert effort. I had to do a lot to not do anything. But when I gave spirit the silence and the stillness and the space, I got exactly what I needed. So we just trust and we have faith. And it's a lot easier if you hold the belief that the universe is a benevolent place and that you are the thing that you're searching for. You already are. And yes, there may be some timing involved, but you're not the only one doing it. And guess what? Your co-creator is the same energy that keeps the planet spinning, the flowers blooming, and the seasons going from one to the other. So you don't think that that force that keeps galaxies and universes from colliding into one another can't also manage your desires? Pretty sure she can do it. So let's take a like just a 2 minute break and then come back. I want to give us a lot of time for today's Innerspace work because I'm getting the sense that there might be a lot of stillness and silence. So I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. So it's 2 minutes from now. What we'll say it's 55 after. We'll come back in 2 minutes. Oh, that's okay. Annette, I'm glad you came. You can find the replay on YouTube later if you want to do the rest of it. You can go to my YouTube channel. Um, so just take 2 minutes, go to the bathroom. If you need to reorganize your space, get to a different spot where you can relax when we come back and dive into the work. Then we'll do that and we will come back and dive into the energy work. So bathroom break or get a beverage, whatever you need to do, and I'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay. So as always, a reminder that these gatherings are free. There's no requirement, but I also am going to pass the collection plate. So if you feel inspired to offer, there's my Stripe link or my PayPal link. Again, totally optional, not required. Um, so let's dive into our inner space. Now, for those of you who are new to the energy work, you can turn your camera off if you want. I'm going to pin myself. So you'll just see my face for the duration of the energy work. The only thing that really matters now is that you can hear the sound of my voice. So it doesn't matter if you can see me, doesn't matter if your camera's on, and just finding a spot where you can be fully relaxed. You can kick back, be uninterrupted, making sure my phone is off. You might want to do that too. Anything that you don't need can be on vibrate or airplane. And we'll just kick back and see where the energy wants to go today. So just begin with the breath. You may find that with today's Innerspace work that there is a lot of silence. I will be doing my best to hit the mute button when I'm not speaking to ensure that there is no like, background noise. So if you hear audio being a little bit funky, hopefully my mute button will not create some sort of static or anything for you. But if it gets noisy here, I just want to be sure that we can be still and silent. But all we have to do is begin with a breath. Just breathing in nice and deep. There we go. Just use that breath to slow everything down. Taking a nice full inhale and giving yourself a full and complete exhale. Just find the breath. Breathing nice and deep as your natural rhythm just kind of takes over. Just let yourself fall back into the flow. Sometimes I visualize just leaning back into a waterfall and letting that energy and that water just wash over me and through me and just carry me with its current. And then I get to just float and be guided and carried. We're just breathing and allowing. And as you're breathing, dropping into the deeper parts of yourself, we can ask the body to direct you to the place that is your connection to the stillness and the silence we've been speaking of. So as you're breathing, just let your awareness be guided. Just relax and allow yourself to be brought to the point of connection. There we go. Just feel the breath slowing everything down as those inner waters go nice and quiet and still. And just breathe into the moment. If you find that there are noises in your environment, maybe in your home or your building or outside, simply observe those sounds. Allow them to be a part of your experience. Don't need to fight them or avoid them. Just let them be. Maybe it helps you to visualize wrapping silence around you like a blanket or a cloak, like a little kid under the covers with a flashlight reading the book. It's your own private world, it's your own safe bubble. So we'll invite in the energy of stillness. Ask it to wrap itself around you like a blanket. It can be a source of comfort, it can be a source of calm, of peace. and just breathe. And we'll give permission to the mind, to the mental field, to the nervous system, just to go quiet and still. Inviting them to either join the experience of stillness and silence, and if not join, then simply observe and watch. As you breathe and continue to deepen that experience of stillness, you can see that it's like a body of water, that when it is still and quiet, then all of the sediment, all the stuff in the water can simply settle to the bottom and we can see clearly. Likewise, when you allow everything that's active within you to settle, then you can access a deeper sense of clarity. That's beautiful. Just keep breathing. Now we're going to connect with some aspects of self. If there are any parts within you that are tired, that are exhausted, perhaps even depleted, we'll invite them into the center. Also inviting the parts of us that are the overachievers, the parts of us that want to work hard, the parts of us that think that it always comes down to our effort, the parts that believe that self-sacrifice is the only way to get things done, that martyrdom is still effective, that cutting off parts of you to please other people. Any part of you that feels like it just needs a moment of quiet and stillness. We invite them into the center now. And just as stillness and silence have wrapped themselves around you, I want you to put your arms around these parts of you and pull them close. Offer them the grace of a moment of stillness and an experience of silence. And within this space of stillness, we can also give these layers of personality or identity, the anxious one, the nervous one, the one that's wound tight, the one that's keyed up, the one that's impatient. There we go. We can allow the experience of rushing, of being anxious, of chasing, of constantly needing to be seeking or healing or doing. Simply give them a moment to pause. And also bring us relief from the constant need to perform, to be good, to be right, to be correct, to be nice, to be kind, to be liked. All of those are wonderful things. But as a means to an end, the constant searching for rightness or goodness or correctness can be depleting and exhausting. So, for the parts of self that feel like they always have to be performing and showing how good or right or correct or smart or professional or whatever we are, whatever we think we are, we need to be or want to be, we'll just give all of that a rest for the moment. Turn off all those lights. There you go. Just come to the center and be. And now we're going to ask the energy field, giving it permission to reorganize itself in this moment of stillness if there's anything that needs to be done. Inviting your teams of helpers and guides and angels, your benevolent co-creators, to also step in and assist if there's anything that can be done in service of your well-being that can be addressed right now. Inviting them to move in, make any adjustments to your field of energy. Also inviting the energy to expand, to inflate and to grow in the absence of the mental restriction. From this place of stillness and silence, we can allow our energy field to really grow and expand. To bring in that experience of spaciousness, creating more room in your days, in your life. Creating some distance between you and the noise of the outer world or the mental chatter. There we go. Just allow that spaciousness to surround you. Allow it to fill you up. And the density of confusion or overwhelm or too much chatter, too much information, can allow that to dissipate. And in the days and weeks to come, see what you can do to cultivate and nurture stillness and silence in your own experience. Maybe that's incorporating it into a daily practice, setting a reminder on your phone to go off several times throughout the day, even to just give yourself that moment of pause where you simply collect all of your awareness, bring it all into the moment, and simply be. To reel in those awarenesses that take us into the past, to reel in that awareness that projects us into the future, to call all of that home and simply be in the moment, even if just for a moment. And then just come back to the breath. Breathing in nice and deep as you're coming back to the room. Breathing in nice and deep as you're coming back to the body. Taking another nice, full, deep breath as you're fully present in this moment, back in the body, back in the room. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back. So, in whatever way you can incorporate those moments of stillness and silence, I think it's like everything else, right? We've been talking about surrender, we've been talking about chaos, we've been talking about how to deliberately engage with those states in even very small ways. And I think you can do the same with stillness and silence. Simply take a moment, just be, right? So we find the center and then we choose. We find the center and then we act. We feel what's present and then we decide. It's not about not using the mind. It's just understanding that without context, the mind can create all sorts of havoc through our automatic and unconscious responses. So when we give ourselves that stillness and that silence, because there is a space between the impetus, the activation, the trigger, and our response, our reaction, what we do in the face of that, the space here is where the power lies. The space to decide, the space to remember, the space to choose, the space to go, wait a minute, I've been here before and I always do this one thing. So what's the thing I haven't done? Or, hey, spirit, I don't know what the hell to do because every time I do something here, I ends up making it worse. So you tell me what to do. What else can I do? Right. So even those few split seconds, those moments can mean a huge difference in our experience. Huge. Also, I think there's another piece to throw in here. We don't owe anybody a response. Right now, certainly someone needs something from you and you've said you'll do it, right? That's a different thing. But what I'm talking about is this idea like social media. Everyone has to have an opinion. Everyone has to have a response. Everyone has to show how they're acting and how they're engaged and how they're helping or not or whatever. No, you don't owe anyone anything. You don't owe anyone anything. Someone says, I need you to do this thing. You say, well, can I think about it? No, I need you to do it now. Well, then I can't. Because unless I am 100% clear about why I'm doing it, unless I'm 100% clear about my commitment, and it may even be like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. So I'm committing to doing something I don't want to do. That's fine. But make it conscious, make it deliberate, and make it on purpose. And if you're not sure, if you're not certain, and someone's pressuring you, well, then it's no. Because I'm not going to pretend that I'm clear. I'm not going to pretend that I understand what I really want to do. So, in the absence of that clear understanding, I'm just going to say no, because if it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no. At least that's how I choose to navigate the world. You do what works for you. But certainly you may feel like you owe someone a response. You also owe yourself the clarity before that response. To be a person of your word means that the words that you speak should be authentic and true. And if you need a little bit of time to figure out how you really feel, that's fine. And anybody who really cares about you or really wants you to be involved or really wants you to be a part of it or whatever will allow you that time. There we go. Yeah, just stay in that space. It's all good. Thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous week. Love you all so much. Thank you, everybody, for your kindness, your generosity. It really, really means the world to me. And I'm just happy that you're here. So have a fabulous week. I hope to see you next Sunday. Again, these replays are on my YouTube channel, Amar Energy. There's a playlist for them. So if you miss one and you want to go back and review, or if you just want to do some of the energy work again, they're there for you. Love you, everybody. Have a fabulous Sunday. I'll see you soon. Bye.